Welcome back to episode 3 of my new series called Underrated. Today I want to talk about Chaos by Design by Concord Dawn. Drum and bass is an acquired taste, admittedly. Some people love it, some people can't stand it just because it's electronic music. But this album and Concord Dawn in general, I would argue that even if you don't really appreciate electronic music overall, there's still something on this album that you will like.
Give me that soul. This life is for living. Don't forget what you have been given.
Their previous albums were a lot more like intense and kind of gnarly electronic music. Chaos by Design is very musical, for lack of better description. When it came out, 2006, the album was released, and I was a big fan of Concord Dawn already. And then when this came out, I wasn't blown away immediately by it. It took a little bit of adjusting to. I think they might have got new hardware or a new studio or something, because it did sound a bit different. But in reality, it sounded better than what came before, production-wise. It was really clean and really crisp and atmospheric, whereas stuff they released before, like this, was just kind of going for like intense drum and bass, buzzy, bassy distortedness. And Chaos by Design pulled that back a little bit, which took a little bit to get accustomed to, but there's still parts of it that are heavy as hell, like this. So Concord Dawn at this time were Matt Harvey and Evan Short. Now, as far as I'm aware, Concord Dawn are not active anymore. Evan Short left in 2010, and so it was just Matt Harvey going forward. According to Wikipedia, they are still active, but as far as I know, they're not doing anything anymore. I really wish they were, but no, I don't believe so. So Wikipedia, you're wrong. Anyway, so this album, it goes in all manner of different directions. Like I said, it does have some heavy parts, but overall it's quite smooth and atmospheric, I think is the best way I can put it. Concord Dawn were essentially who got me into drum and bass. Them and Pendulum, pretty much, way back in the day. Before I even knew what drum and bass really was, I heard both of these guys and I was like, ooh, that's interesting. I think I'll continue listening to this, thank you very much. And Concord Dawn really were the first to pull me into the world of drum and bass. Realistically, I think this is the best thing they ever did. They have other classics which some people would argue are better. For me, if I'm stripping as much nostalgia away from the previous albums as I can, I've got to say this is the best thing they did. The intro song, Broken Eyes, I have always related to, because just so you know, I wear contact lenses. I have very bad eyesight, so when the song is called Broken Eyes, I'm like, yeah, that's me, and the song's a banger, so I'm like, yeah, that's my song, right? And then it goes straight into Chloroform, which is very, again, atmospheric, and it's not intense, it's not crazy. I do DJ, and my preference is drum and bass, but I rarely play Concord Dawn's music because it's not bonkers music, you know, it's not going to create any mosh pits really, I don't think. It's just really, really good. You've also got some vocal contributions on this album, which is kind of a thing that Concord Dawn always did. They always had, I think apart from on the first album, they had vocalists come in and do vocals on top of their songs, which back in the day wasn't really that common. It was kind of Concord Dawn and Pendulum that started turning drum and bass tracks into actual songs, and including vocalists really elevated their music above a lot of other drum and bass at the time. And this is why I say they are underrated, because they were doing things that a lot of other artists were not doing, and I feel like they're kind of a cult artist in the world of drum and bass. Like, it's kind of a case of if you know, you know. Like, if you meet someone who's a drum and bass fan and you mention Concord Dawn and they know them as well as someone like me does, you're friends for life. And that's what I really like about them. They never got as big as Pendulum, but they did know Pendulum. They were associated with them. They're both from the same part of the world, New Zealand, Australia, that area. And I believe it was Concord Dawn that sort of elevated Pendulum, rather than it being the other way around, you know, which you might assume. But yeah, the song You Don't Have to Run I think will always be my like #1 summer song. Like, I cannot listen to it in winter. It feels incredibly wrong. Like, I would never listen, or probably not listen to him in summer. To me, that's very much winter music. This song is the epitome of summer. The very last song, Say Your Words, featuring Holly Smith, is probably one of my favourite songs on the album, because it goes from this really nice like R&B soul thing with a drum and bass beat behind it.
When I take a look around, feel the world is crumbling down. I am ready for belief. I would say to you, listen.
And then it just changes into probably the heaviest track on the album, and probably one of the heaviest tracks that they ever did. And it comes as a big surprise after the huge amount of variety on here. And then you're like, okay, this is just going to be a chilled vocal style track. Wrong. And there's a track, Lost at Sea, which isn't a drum and bass track per se. It's almost like an interlude. Back in the day when I first started listening to this thing, I would skip it a lot because it doesn't really, there's no beats, it doesn't really go anywhere, right? I think I was 18 at the time, and I started like acknowledging the quality of this interlude thing. And so now it's one of those songs that reminds me of when I was 18, like just 18, and thinking like, wow, I'm an adult now. Right. And so it will always have that coming of age feel to me, and actually this album overall really does. It's almost 20 years old now, which is crazy to think about. I wish more people knew about it, hence why I decided to cover it on this series. Similar to the last episode, when I think of the term underrated in the electronic world, Concord Dawn is basically the first thing that ever occurs to me, because it's weird. They were groundbreaking without anyone noticing. Like they changed drum and bass, but never really got the acknowledgement for it, which is incredibly frustrating for me as a big fan. Like I said at the beginning, I could see someone wholesale not being into drum and bass, not being into electronic music at all, but still finding at least bits of this album that they really appreciate, because like I said, there's vocal performances that are really good vocal performances just on their own, regardless of what kind of music they're put on, right? So I think for the average, let's just say, person to listen to this whole album and go, nope, didn't like any of it, I just don't see it happening. It came out at a time where drum and bass hadn't really been around for that long, realistically, in terms of the popular zeitgeist kind of thing. But it was before the time where, you know, dubstep had come along and the loudness wars had blown everything out of proportion, so now everything's, you know, jump up like blah 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 blah, which is, don't get me wrong, I like that stuff, but I think a lot of people will associate drum and bass with that, which this is not that at all. What I'm saying is, if you like drum and bass, then you'll probably like this. If you don't like drum and bass, there's a good chance you will like this. There's nothing distasteful, there's nothing over the top or too aggressive on this, I don't think. Maybe a couple of tracks where you're like, oh, that bass line's a bit stomach churning. But overall, again, because of the vocal performances and the atmosphere on this thing, I really, really recommend it. It should have had more success than it had, basically, as is the same with Concord Dawn overall. They contributed so much to electronic music and never got the attention they deserved. They got attention, don't get me wrong, they had success, but not enough, I don't think. Go listen to Chaos by Design by Concord Dawn. I implore you. Just let it run. And if you don't like it, I've got to be honest, there's something wrong with you. Once again, I hope you've enjoyed this little episode of Underrated. Let me know your thoughts, and if you know Concord Dawn, then hit me up. I'd be very keen to meet other Concord Dawn fans. But for now, I've still not thought of how to end videos yet, so I'm just going to say, go away.